Good morning and welcome. I'm David Okerson, President of the Board at the Unitarian Universalist Church in Reston. I welcome you all here. I wish you a wonderful Easter Sunday. Whether you are on Zoom or here in the church sanctuary, we are so glad you are with us this morning. No matter how old or how young you are, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, however you identify, and whomever you love, know you are welcome here. Cynthia Young is on professional development leave, but she did plan the music for today's service. Heather Cruz is serving as the hymn leader today. We are delighted to welcome Dr. Mary Hannah Klontz as our guest choir conductor this morning. Dr. Klontz is the esteemed director of the Nova Community Chorus and Excelsior Voices, a community youth group for young adults in Woodbridge. She is also a guest clinician, vocalist, and composer. Ensembles under Dr. Klontz's direction have achieved remarkable recognition, performing at prestigious venues like the White House, the National Cathedral, and the Kennedy Center's Millennium Stage. Dr. Klontz, thank you very much for directing our choir and with them bringing beautiful music to our church this Easter Sunday. I have an announcement to share with you this morning. In recognition of Jazz Appreciation Month, we are pleased to present a concert of the original jazz trio on Saturday, April 13th at 7:30. The concert will be held in the sanctuary and streamed live on Zoom. Proceeds will benefit Black Lives Unitarian Universalists. Please pick up a flyer from the foyer or look in the church newsletter and register today. Volunteers are needed to support this special event. Members of the Jazz Subcommittee are here today, including Gar Young and Dora Anderson. You can talk to them to learn more. Kathy, would you like? Well.
Hi, I'm Kathy Delianis, Membership Chair, and rather than wait till the end of the year to welcome new members, we decided we'd like to do it once a month. So we would like to welcome our newest members, none of whom I believe are here today, but look out for them next Sunday and welcome them. We'd like to welcome Susan Davey, who moved here from Sarasota, Florida. And we also like to welcome Diane Santos and Mike Dixon, who are new to UU, and they've been coming for some months now. And also we'd like to bid farewell to member Sharon Norquist, who will be moving out of the area. She'll be moving to Winchester. So we wish her all the best. Thanks.
And one final correction. The memorial service this coming weekend will be on Saturday rather than Sunday afternoon. So please check that. We hope you're able to attend.
Hallelujah. Good morning and welcome. I am Reverend Aileen Fitzke, and it is my honor to serve this congregation as its minister. Our opening words this morning are from the Christian New Testament, from the Gospel of Luke, Luke 24, verse 1 through 12. But on the first day of the week, at early dawn, they went to the tomb, taking the spices that they had prepared. They found the stone rolled away from the tomb, but when they went in, they did not find the body. While they were perplexed about this, suddenly 2 men in dazzling clothes stood beside them. The women were terrified and bowed their faces to the ground. But the angels said to them, "Why do you look for the living among the dead? He is not here, but has risen. Remember how he told you while he was still in Galilee, that the human one must be handed over to the hands of sinners and be crucified, and on the third day rise again." Then they remembered his words, and returning from the tomb, they told all of this to the 11 and to all the rest. Now it was Mary Magdalene, Joanna, Mary, the mother of James, and the other women with them who told this to the apostles. But these words seemed to them an idle tale, and they did not believe them. But Peter got up and ran to the tomb, stooping and looking in. He saw the linen cloths by themselves. Then he went home, amazed at what had happened.
Our opening hymn is number 12 in the gray hymnal. The words are also in your order of service and will appear in your Zoom chat box. We hope you will join us in singing. Please rise in body or spirit.
Good morning. This morning's chalice lighting is from, the reading is from Elizabeth Strong. Out of the earth rises light, rises life, rises spring. May we join with the miracle that is springtime and enter into life with lightness and joy.
Out of the Spirit rises faith, rises hope, rises love. May we join with the miracle that is Easter time and enter into life with hope and love. Let us resurrect with spring, let us resurrect with the Spirit, and enter into renewed life as we gather into our time of worship together this Sunday morning.
Here at UUCR, we have a beloved tradition of singing our covenant together every Sunday. Love is the spirit of this church. The words appear on the screen and in your order of service and in your Zoom chat box. If you are visiting this morning for the first time, we hope you will accept this song as our blessing to you.
It is now the time in our service when we share our joys and concerns, so that no one has to hold them alone. If you are joining us remotely this morning, you may wish to light a real or virtual candle wherever you are to mark what is in your heart. As members of the in-person congregation here at UUCR, place stones in the water. If those of you at home would like to share what is in your heart today in the congregational chat on the screen, please write to all attendees, and please remember that what you share will be public. Those at home may then read others' joys and concerns shared in the chat, and then enter into your own time of prayer and reflection as we listen to Diane play our meditation music. And those of you here in the congregation, I invite you to come forward and place your stones in the bowl. Let us be one in prayer and meditation. Spirit of life and love that so faithfully animates our creation, we are grateful for this community that is with us in times of both joy and sorrow. We hold in our hearts this morning all who are facing any hardship or difficulty, those who are grieving or facing illness or disability in themselves, their friends, or their loved ones. In particular, this morning, we hold in our hearts and prayers the workers who were killed when the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapsed early this week. And especially for our dear Maxine Jobert, who died this week. For them, we light this candle. Let us take a moment of silence.
Good morning and happy Easter. Our stories today come from nature, and the first is based on Growing Green by Janine Groschmeyer. I wonder how many of you like apples? Raise your hand if you like apples. I wonder if you like yellow apples, like Golden Delicious, or red apples, like Red Delicious, or green apples, like Granny Smith, which are my favorite to bake pies with. Yes. And maybe you like apples that are kind of lots of different colors, like Honeycrisp. Yeah. I'm seeing all kinds of hands. I wonder how you like to eat the apple. If you like to take the whole apple and bite in it, and feel and hear that crunch, or if you prefer to have the apples sliced up. Well, either way you eat it, there is something left over. And what is that? Can anyone tell me? The seeds and the core. There is a core left over, and I wonder what you do with that core when you're at school or work. You just throw it away. How about at home? Anyone else do anything other than just toss it in the garbage can? I see a hand up here. You plant the apple seeds? Do you ever get a tree? Yeah. If the conditions were just right, you might get an apple tree, yes.
Oh, we just compost.
Some people compost. And if I threw my apple core out in my garden, it would get dark and mushy, and over time it would fall into little pieces and become part of the soil. And that's called composting, when bits of plant material become part of the soil and make it good brown dirt that other things grow in. And people who have compost bins don't just compost the apple core. They can any plant parts like orange peels, banana peels, the tops of carrots or strawberries. All kinds of plants can go into the compost bin, and they'll get mushy and brown and fall into little bits after time, and then you can take it out to a garden and mix it in with the dirt and plant seeds like tomatoes and beans and strawberries and maybe even flowers in that dirt. And after time, if all the conditions are right, you may start to see them grow. And I invite you to imagine along with me experiencing that growth, seeing the plants come up, watching the birds and the butterflies that come and visit the plant, feeling the plant, smelling flowers, and hearing the hum of bees. And if you don't have any pesticides in the garden, you might take a little tomato off the vine and pop it in your mouth. You might eat a strawberry straight out of the garden. That'd be so tasty. And then with whatever's left over, you could add that to the compost bin and it would break up and become new dirt for new seeds, new vegetables, new fruits, and new flowers. And that is the cycle of life. Things change, things turn into new things, and we work with the earth to make things new.
Once, when rooting through some archives in the library at my divinity school, I came across a collection of Lenten prayer manuals put out by the American Unitarian Society. Apparently, these were printed annually until about the 1950s. In the front cover, there were very specific instructions on how they were to be used. Contemporary UUs don't necessarily do Lenten practice anymore, though some of you may be familiar with hashtag UULent. That has been very popular among some people in the past few years. Has anyone ever tried doing UULent? Anyone? Okay. Having been an active Catholic until my late 30s, I still have a soft spot for Lent, and I still try and do some sort of spiritual practice during the Lenten liturgical season. For those not raised in the Christian tradition, the Lenten season encompasses the 40 days leading up to Easter, starting with Ash Wednesday and ending with the Easter Triduum, Holy Thursday through Easter Sunday. It has always been my favorite liturgical and spiritual season, and so every year, like I said, I try and do an individual spiritual practice during this time of year. I'm not always successful at sticking at it, but I try. This year, I found a book that I really loved called A Different Kind of Fast, Feeding Our True Hunger in Lent, written by the artist, writer, and spiritual director, Christine Walters-Paintner. Her invitation in the first chapter sucked me in. She writes, "In the pages ahead, you will be invited into a series of non-physical fasts, where we explore what it means to fast from multitasking, anxiety, rushing, holding it all together, planning, and certainty. Instead, we will embrace presence, abundance, slowness, tenderness, unfolding, and mystery." And I thought, that's exactly what I need. During the course of the 6-week guided practices, she focused on meditation, Lectio Divina, creative ritual, and imaginative prayer. In part 1 of our Time for All Ages this morning, Linda taught us about composting, about how things that were once alive slowly break down over time until they create fertile soil so that other new living things can come into being. Vegetables and fruits that we eat that lead to our thriving. And it repeats over and over again this cycle of birth, death, and renewal. It continues, and so the cycle of life goes on, around, and people work together with the earth and help make things anew. It is no coincidence that the Lenten season is in spring, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, because it too is a time for renewal, the spiritual practice of letting go of those things that no longer serve slowly allows for the possibility of new life, new growth, and new ways of being. In a different kind of fast, Christine Paetner writes of wrapping up the 6-week practice. When we make the journey together, allowing the excess to be stripped away, we hope to arrive on the other side with more capacity for what is vital, alive, and precious in our lives. We can begin again with beginner's mind. In our spiritual lives, we are always beginning again. That is the essence of humility. And so I invite you to take your flower sticky note, which you will find in your order of service. And I would love you to either draw or write your answer to this question. What will you plant this spring? That this might be something that you want to change about yourself or your life, or a step you want to take toward a goal for yourself or for the world. You are invited to take the flower sticky note home with you as a reminder.
As a self-funded church, UUCR relies on the generosity of its members and friends to fund daily operations and to ensure that the church and its resources are here for us and others now and in the future. Pledges support our worship and music programs, our religious education programs, programs for members and friends, community outreach, and connections to Unitarian Universalism. We now invite you to support the work of UU Reston by making your donation to the collection plate if you are here in the sanctuary, or at the link on the slide and in the chat box. Thank you for your generosity and support of our beloved spiritual home.
Our offering today is music arranged by a member of your congregation, by Alan Kramer, who I believe is watching remotely today, so it's extra special. Thank you, Alan.
Oh,
Now, if you're feeling young of body and would like to come closer and help with the story, you can come up and sit on the floor. And if you're at home or here in the sanctuary, you can also help with the story from your seats. There are many stories from around the world that tell of an old person planting a tree that will take years to grow. This version is adapted from one in Faye Mogenson's Ancient Stories for Modern Times. An old woman was in her garden, and she was slowly digging a hole. Can you help me dig a hole? Dig a hole in the garden? Okay. It was hard work, and so she stopped from time to time and rested. And then she kept on digging. Then she shuffled along slowly, and moved a skinny little sapling. That's kind of a young tree. And she moved it, and then pushed it into the hole, and then she pushed in the dirt. And you can help me do that. Let's slowly push in the dirt, and then pat it down. Okay. And then she sat down and looked at the tree. Just at that moment, a neighbor peeked over her fence and said, "Talia, what are you doing? You should be careful. You're planting a tree? Ridiculous. At your age? Is that an apple tree? That will take forever to produce any apples." Talia laughed, and she pointed at an old apple tree in the corner of her garden. It had twigs that were broken, and many of the branches were all bent from age. And even though it was the middle of the spring, there were only a few blossoms on it. She said, "My great-grandmother planted that tree. And when I was a little girl, I liked climbing it. And as a young woman, I would pick apple blossoms and put them in my hair. As a mother, I picked the apples and I made apple pie and applesauce and cider and served that to all my family. Now, I sit under the shade and enjoy the blossoms and the tree, and I watch the bees and butterflies that come and visit it and drink the nectar from the blossoms and then fly away to pollinate my neighbors' gardens. I now have a lot of time on my hands, and I sit and remember. Just a couple of days ago, I was sitting and looking at my yard, and I realized I have never planted a tree. Never. That's just not right. My great-grandchildren are here, and they need an apple tree. The neighbor laughed and pledged to herself that she would plant something or do something for her great-grandchildren, even though she didn't yet have any at all. So many times when we are doing things, it may take a long, long time to do it. Some things that we may plant or begin, we may not even see the results. So I wonder, what helps you keep going when you get frustrated and something seems impossible because of time or because of obstacles or setbacks that get in your way? And you may go to your seats now, and I invite you to keep thinking about that question as we listen to what Reverend Aileen has to share.
I had a mentor many years ago, Reverend Grace Moore. We were taking some graduate classes together back in the 90s. She was a retired UCC minister, one of the pioneers who broke through the stained glass ceiling of women's ordination in the 1970s. She told me how years earlier she had stopped using the cross as a symbol of Jesus and the resurrection. Instead, during the Easter season, she told me, she began wearing a butterfly that she pinned on her clothing. Aileen, it is about transformation. The gospel reading I opened with this morning is the story of the resurrection from the Gospel of Luke. I deliberately ended with a verse that reveals an empty tomb. The gospel goes on to tell stories of the disciples' encounters with the risen Christ. But I love the image of the empty tomb. Much ink has been spilled through the centuries about its meaning. The Gospel of Mark, in its earliest iterations, ends with the empty tomb, though later iterations include encounters with Christ. There is a mystery in the empty tomb. There is still only the promise of resurrection, only that spark of hope. Part 2 of our Time for All Ages this morning looks at hope through the lens of planting a tree. An old woman plants a tree even though she knows she will not be alive to see it grow. She plants it not for herself, but for her grandchildren and great-grandchildren. It is a gesture of hope for the future. It is an optimistic act. Not only in the planting of the tree, but for the hope that her grandchildren and great-grandchildren will live long and full lives to enjoy the tree that she planted. My garden right now is almost the most beautiful it ever gets. It is awash in colors, all purples, yellows, reds, and whites. The daffodils and hellebore, and I don't know what the name of the white flowers are, but those are all from my garden. Each year, as the earth warms, I always wonder, what will I get this year? Spring's wet or dry conditions allow for the growth of different things. I am always surprised in some way what comes up each year. For me, the garden is a symbol of hope, that the earth renews itself over and over, and from that which seems dead arises new life. The Christian spiritual writer Richard Rohr writes that Easter is the feast day of hope. Our Christian siblings see in the resurrection a triumph over death, a hope of new beginning. Even in the encounters with the risen Christ that the gospel writers tell us about, the disciples at first do not recognize him. He is him, but he is not him. He is something different, something that is transformed. They themselves are transformed by the events. They become emboldened by hope. Easter is the feast day of hope. Hope for the flowers, for new life, for the growth and survival of a tree, of that which lasts beyond what we will see or experience. So, I invite you to take the butterfly sticky note that is in your order of service and draw or write your answer to this question: what brings you hope? When you are done, you can add your note to the poster boards that are scattered throughout. There's a couple over there, there's one back there. And you can post what you write so that you can give inspiration to one another in your pictures and words. Oh, and you can put them on the windows too if you want to. So I invite you to write and then come forward and place your sticky notes on whatever board or window is closest to you.
Our closing hymn is number 61 in the gray hymnal. The words also appear on your order of service and in your Zoom chat box. We hope you will join us in singing. Please rise and body your spirit.
Our benediction this morning is by the Reverend Alex Holt. For all those who celebrate the resurrection of Jesus, may this day be another affirmation of divine love and promise. For all those who see the eternal story of new spring and life beginning anew, may you breathe deeply of a season of promise and hope. For all those who are experiencing despair or hopelessness this Easter, may you find in the darkness or depression a doorway to light and warmth that offers you freedom. For all of us, together, we can do what no one isolated person can do. Rolling the heavy stone aside reminds us we are far more powerful than we could ever be on our own. Our offering of strong hands to help, our prayers made real. Let us begin again in love.
We now extinguish this flame. But not the light of hope and truth, the warmth of community, nor the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Diane, and to our guest conductor this morning, Dr. Mary Hannah Klontz. Happy Easter and go in peace.